Tips and tricks for the beginner or the casual Escape from Tarkov player. Let's dive straight into it. The first thing we're going to be talking about is stash management. This is going to be really useful for those people that don't have Edge Darkness and don't have their stash fully upgraded yet. So sorting your stash is subjective. You can sort it to however you want to. It's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. This is how I prefer, and to me, this is a really efficient way of storing things. So first, I keep this top spot open. This is for moving quick. So let's say I get done with a raid and I got out with these things here. I can just quickly go bam, bam. Say I got these and these, you know, just all this cool stuff. It automatically goes to the top of my hideout and I can be like, okay, cool. I want to keep these. I want to sell these. And then as soon as I'm done doing that, I have cleared up all this headspace again. And it's just a good dump area to put all the stuff from in raid. And you can decide what to do with it from there. The second thing is organization. Again, this is subjective. I don't have enough room in my med backpack, so this is where I keep my extra meds for now. I try to keep it organized. And then my next thing down is cases. I have my 2 scav junk boxes, this vest that I use for money. We'll talk about that later. My ammo boxes, my food storage. I'm not pronouncing that. And my slim medical pack. We will talk about why I don't use a med case later. The next thing is Ear Pro and helmets, rigs, and armor. I hold on to these because most of it is insurance and some of these are for storage. Again, we'll talk about that later. Next thing down is backpack storage. I stack backpacks here. I'm running a little low. Bigger backpack storage and some more junk. Next thing is weapons storage. I keep my weapons at the bottom. And then that is actually the next thing we're going to talk about. Storing your weapons. When you store your weapons, it is good, in my opinion. When you store them, remove the magazine and remove the pistol grip. This saves a lot of extra room. You can see these are 1 high slots. Now, if I figure out which one belongs to my MPX here, we can do this number, this guy. Look at how much room that is. So that's why I remove the pistol grips. I save them. You can sell them and buy them when you need them. But also, in my opinion, you don't need this many weapons. I'm a hoarder. That's why I have them. So that's weapon storage in a nutshell. The next thing we are going to talk about is magazines. You can notice I do not hold on to magazines. Magazines are insufficient storage. I will buy one here. Okay, so your typical magazine takes up a 1x2 slot. Let's load this up. With a random ammo, boom, 30. Let's unload it. Here's a stack of 30. It's a 1 slot. Most of your ammo stacks up to 60. Bad example. All right, 55. 55 does not fit in here because most of your common magazines hold up to 30. You see where I'm going with this? You can store more ammo in a single stack than in a magazine. And that's not where I put those. So magazines are insufficient storage. I typically sell these unless they are really expensive and really good magazines. I can't sell to him. I'm going to sell to him because I need cash. I'm running low because I just did the friend from the West task and then I put it in here. All right. So that covers weapon storage, magazines. The next thing we're going to talk about is using rigs for storage. We're going to talk about this. I keep rigs for storage, especially early wipe. Let's lay all this out. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You can hold more stuff in a rig. We'll make this the exact same size as the rig. Look at that. This is the exact same size as the rig, and we still have these items that we have yet to move out. You might be wondering why I'm holding on to this junk, but again, we'll talk about that later. The long story short, you can keep some extra space by just putting stuff in rigs. The next thing we're going to talk about is these cases here. Open your scav junk box. Welcome to hoarders. We're going to talk about a couple things. A couple of these items are multi-storage worth. So pile of meds can be stored in your med backpack or med case and the junk box. Same goes for the blood sets, H2O, and saline. And the same goes for a couple other things, but those are the examples that I have. Other than multi-purpose storage, I keep those items that aren't actually meds that I can use in raid in my scav junk box. Now, moving down to my med case. You might be wondering why I'm calling this a med case, because it's not, it's a med backpack, but we're talking about the med case in general. Why do I have a backpack instead of a med case? Well, that's because I did the task from Therapist that gives you a med case. I sold the med case on the flea market, and I'm now using this backpack. This backpack takes up a little more room in your hideout. I believe it's about 4 more squares of space that it takes up, but inside it only has 1 less square than the med case. So you have pretty much the same amount of space in this backpack that you have in a med case. And now here's the juicy part. These are a little expensive now, but you can buy them for 200K. They used to run for 65, so if you want to wait for them to go back down, they will eventually. But now if we do this and go to our medicine case, I sold my medicine case today for 620,000. If that is not a worthy trade to you, I don't know what is. So sell your med case, buy the backpack, pocket the extra 400,000 and run this instead of a med case. Personal preference, that's what I do. Next thing we're going to talk about is this is my makeshift money case. I have a wallet in here. So instead of spending roughly 1.3 million on a money case, first of all, I don't have enough money to even fill a money case, let alone the CSA rig. What we're going to do, we're going to use this as our money case. I store this, and in here I keep my rubles. You don't have to have a wallet, but here's the cool thing. Look at this. This has 4 slots in it. Boom, boom, boom. We now have a lot of room. This is going to hold a lot of money, especially if you use wallets. Wallets used to run around 8K. They're a little expensive right now. You can wait for them to go down. You can find them in raid, and you can put them in rigs, and you have a makeshift money case. This saves a lot of money. I recommend doing this. So that is going to cover stash, storage, and organization. The next thing we're going to cover is some quick keybinds for equipping, unequipping, and quick movement. So if I want to quickly discard this stuff into my stash, I shouldn't say discard. If you want to quickly move this stuff from your character to your stash, all you have to do is hold your left control and click your left mouse button. Look at that. It quickly moves everything to the top of your stash. This is why I'm saying keep this open. Now, if we want to do this in the reverse fashion, you hold left alt, this equips. So this will equip it in each applicable slot where it belongs, just like that. Now, if we want to do a second weapon, it'll go into your secondary slot. The same works for pistols. The next thing we're going to talk about is putting items in your backpack. Same thing that I told you. Left control, left mouse. Instead of applying it to the open slot where it belongs, it'll just throw it in your backpack. It'll even rotate it for you if it has enough space. So that's quick movement in a nutshell within your hideout. In a little bit, we're going to talk about quick discarding and other things while we're in raid. This next part we're going to be talking about is the quick movement of items while in raid. Again, left alt, left mouse will quickly equip it to an applicable slot, and left control, left mouse will throw it into your backpack or any other spot in your inventory. Control, it'll throw it in the rig because it makes sense to go in the rig, and these will go in the backpack. Also, double tap Z to ditch your backpack. I'd recommend doing that before gunfights, but that's for another video. Let's say we want to quickly equip this backpack. Left alt, left click. Simple as that. The next mechanic we're going to talk about in raid is the quick discard. You have to keybind this yourself to make it more fluid for you. But for me, it's the left control, right mouse, and it'll quickly discard things that I found and throw them on the ground into this big heap of trash. Quickly discard stuff, and this also works for any item you have. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is insurance fraud. If you find an item, in my opinion, this is what you should do. If you find an item that is equivalent to yours or greater, insurance fraud your insured items. Now, insurance fraud, I recommend insurance frauding things that are equivalent or better than the current item that you have. So I already moved items over here, but let's say we want to keep the security rig instead of my Thunderbolt. I'm going to take my Thunderbolt, put it in my backpack. I'm going to apply this to my character. Again, left alt, left click. We're going to take this insured item, and we're going to simply find a suitable bush. And we're going to toss it in there. 9 times out of 10, no one's going to notice that. No one's going to walk through the bush. And you should get that item back when your insurance rolls in. There's plenty of ways to insurance fraud. You can also throw it in dumpsters. You can throw them in boxes. Sometimes people won't see that if you're in a hurry. There are empty dumpsters in this game. This one isn't empty. You can throw it in there. But if you have access to a water source, this is what I recommend you do. I'm going to break my legs. Yep. Okay. We're going to run over to the water here. There's obviously a barrier here. You can't go in. Insurance fraud your items in water if you have the chance. There's no way someone can reach that. You're guaranteed to get that item back. Same thing works for all this stuff. It'll all roll into the water. So that's insurance fraud 101. Stamina. Obviously, with the implementation of inertia and Escape from Tarkov, there's plenty of ways to lower your stamina now. Crouching and then standing back up, you lose stamina now. Going prone, standing up, you lose quite a bit of stamina. And now sprinting. I recommend do not let your stamina bar go below half. That's a good spot to start. So we're going to loop around here. I would recommend stopping right there. and then just continue to walk. Personally, if you don't have to sprint in Tarkov, do not sprint. A lot of players can pick up those audio cues and it gives away your position really fast. Now going back to sprinting. If you have to sprint, try not to let it fall below half. But if you want to use your stamina bar a little more, at the very minimum level of stamina, do not let it hit red. You want to release it right about here. Okay, I was a little late, but don't let it hit the red. If you can sprint and then stop right here, do that. Because as you can hear, my PMC is out of breath. Everyone else that's in the general vicinity can also hear that. Hey, it's post-production Braun. Just another tip for you. Try not to run on metal, wood. Don't bump into tree branches, run in bushes. That's all very loud audio cues that other players can pick up on. And just a quick tip to stay silent and stay deadly. Back to the video. Do not run your stamina bar into the red. It gives away your position. Plus, you could be stuck out in the open without much stamina. And if you get shot, you're going to be out of luck. This also goes along with aiming. We'll sit here and I'll fast forward. But if you can watch the arm stamina bar, it'll continue to drop. This varies on the ergo of your weapon and the weight of the weapon. But eventually, we're going to let this run out and I'll come back when that does so. All right, we're back. My arm stamina is now in the red and my character is now shaking. His arm's swaying a little more. It's harder to aim. Now, eventually, he's going to run out of breath and he's going to get tired from holding this. That can also give your position away. It's very loud. If you sit long enough and your arm stam is completely drained, he will start to pant and it'll be super loud and annoying. Do not let that happen. And now moving into our next thing. If you're ADS and someone comes into your building or your vicinity and you do not want them to hear you on ADS, listen. ADSing and un-ADSing makes a lot of noise. People around you can hear that. They're good audio cues. So if you're ADS and someone comes into your area and you don't want them to know you're here and you're stuck aiming down sights, overhead peek. There's no sound when you un-ADS while using the overhead peek function. I have mine keybound, my third mouse button on the side of my mouse. You're going to have to keybind it so it works for you. And it requires no movement for you. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is knives. I typically keep my melee slot open. So if I'm trying to do a barter, like the knife trade, so this is going to be a two-parter that we're going to talk about here. Let's say I find this bad boy in raid, I can save a slot and put it here. Or if I find something like a red rebel, I can throw it here. These knives are all worth barters. I'll show you here. Peacekeeper level 1. If you don't want to spend money on a UMP 45, you can trade 7 of these for a UMP 45. Or you can trade 8 of these for an MP5 from Peacekeeper level 1. Here's an example on why I keep my knife slot open on my PMC. I come into here and I see this weapon has spawned on this table. I can pick it up and it'll automatically go to my melee slot, saving 3 squares of space in my backpack. It's free space.
It's free real estate.
The next thing we're going to talk about is using your secure container to its full potential. This is obviously subjective to what size secure container you have. So what you want to use it for is what's going to benefit you the most. So my typical secure container looks like this. I have my docs case in it, dog tag case, a long-lasting med or painkiller, a splint, and a serve kit. Or if you don't have a serve kit, you can put a CMS. Basically long-term meds that are going to last, have a lot of uses, and CMSs and serves. It fluctuates, but most of the time they're going to be expensive. That is my typical secure container. That's what it usually looks like. Now, if you're running for tasks, let's say you have the bunker task for Woods, doing this for Jaeger, where you have to plant the circle lunchboxes and water bottles. Instead of putting them in your backpack and possibly dying and losing all of this stuff that you have to spend money on each time, you can put it in here. And now if you die, you get to do it again. You don't have to spend money. So this is a catch-22. You have to pick which items that you want to put in your secure container, and you have to kind of pick and choose what's worth it. So if I was doing this, I might split this half and half. I might put this in here, and then I would not bring my dog tag case. I would probably put my splint in here, my long-term meds, and my serve kit, and I wouldn't bring this. So it's subjective. Like I said, pick and choose how you want to run it. I would also recommend doing this for any mission where you have to mark things. So your MS 2000 markers, which I believe go for 15,000 from Prapper, I don't think you want to buy that repeatedly. So buy those, put them in here, save yourself some money. So that covers task items and daily running of the secured container for me at least. Now let's talk about the value of loot and what you should and should know when it comes to being in raid and the value of different things. So we're going to use this as my example. Let's say this is what you're running, right? And you come across this in a single raid. Let's say this is in a raid, right? And you have to pick which items go in your secure container and which items you're willing to sacrifice. In my personal opinion, I would probably remove these items quick, leave these in here 100%, and I would pick these items to keep. And then I could put those in there and put these in here and chance those. Or for some reason, if you're thinking a vase is worth more than a Bitcoin and a roller, you can do that. Or if you think the Tetris isn't worth as much, depending on where we are in the wipe, you can run it like this. It can be used any way you see fit, completely subjective, completely up to you. Run it, whatever makes most sense. And that brings me to my next point. If you don't know the value of items and you're in a Tarkov Discord, most Discords, like mine, linked down below in description, have a Tarkov market bot. If you're in raid and you're like, oh man, I wonder how much this fuel conditioner is worth, I can go over to my Discord, go into my Tarkov market bot, type in the command space fuel conditioner, and it will tell me how much it's currently worth. I'll be like, oh, that's not worth my surf kit, so I'm going to keep it in here and I'm going to keep my surf kit here. I'll be like, oh, wow, that's completely more expensive, or it's worth a lot more than my surf kit. I'm going to swap those two. And now I've secured that much money if I die. So it's worth knowing the value of items and the fluctuation that the flea and different items are going to have throughout the wipe. Learn what you need for tasks, hideout upgrades, and everything else that you're going to need specific items for. So if we go back to here, you're like, wow, why is my junk box so full? I know eventually I'm going to have to turn these in to therapist for a task. I did the same thing with a cigarette task, bad habit for mechanic. I save hoses because I know these hoses here are going to be useful for hideout upgrades. And I save the ornaments for the tree, obviously, and the water filters I save for my water collector. Eventually that is going to be up and running and I'm going to have to use water filter. Same thing goes for sugar. I hold on to sugar until I'm able to use them in crafting moonshine or until the price goes up on the flea market. Know what items to hold for upgrades, tasks, and even barters. So for one barter, it takes one cat figurine, a bronze lion, and I believe 4 horses, and you can get a docs case. I knew I had to hold on to these specific items, and these are pretty expensive. So learn your barters, learn your items, learn your tasks, learn your hideout upgrades. I'll drop a link in the description for references on what all you need for upgrades, tasks, and all those items. That's all I got for you today. In the future, I do plan on doing specific tips and tricks for each map in Tarkov. And if you want to learn anything else, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to make a video on it, and I would be happy to help to my fullest extent. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you disliked it, that's all right. Leave a dislike. For the algorithm, comment down below and share the video with a friend. Let me know what you think, or if you have any further ideas on the series like this, let me know down below. And if you really like what I'm doing here, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 500 subscribers in the year 2022. That's all I got for you today. Take it easy. Happy New Year. Deuces.